Hello everyone and welcome to the 2011 Ford Ironman Lake Placid. This is the 13th running of this wonderful race here in this wonderful community as well, and not only is this community enriched in Olympic history and Ironman history as well, not only the 13th running, but in 1932 the first Winter Olympics came here. They haven't had just one but two. 1980 was the second time, Miracle on Ice, 4-3, USA versus Russia, and also Eric Heiden, he won 5 gold medals on the finish line right here at the ice rink.
Yeah, this community has a huge Olympic history, and it has a huge ice hockey history, and now it has 13 years of Ironman Lake Placid. So it's the community here. I mean, you go down the street, everyone's very friendly. They make you feel like you want to be here and live here.
Yes, exactly, and right now we're having a bit of a heat wave on the eastern side of the United States, and up in New York State, that's where we're at right now in the Adirondack Mountains. The weather for this weekend, McKeely?
Yeah, as you talked about, it's definitely a heat wave. Previous races, we haven't really seen these sort of conditions. We're going to be topping out at about 76 degrees later on in the day. We're going to be starting off a little bit chillier, around 49 degrees. But, you know, great for the races. The wind is going to be about 8 miles per hour. Humidity is going to start creeping up at about 47%. It's going to be partly cloudy. So, you know, once they get out on the run, I think these conditions are going to be beneficial to the athletes.
Yes, they certainly will be. And talking about the athletes, on Sunday morning they'll be kicking off at 6:50 a.m. The professional athletes, just under 40 of those, and just over 2,400 age group athletes will be heading off 10 minutes later on our course. Now, before we go over to the maps of the course, let's take a look at the video overview of this wonderful course here in Lake Placid.
This is the 13th year, and I've been extremely fortunate to have been around the event right from the start. Lucky enough to cross the finish line, in fact, in 2002. You know, what can be said that hasn't been said before? I mean, this place is iconic. If you're involved in Ironman, you have to do this race, and almost everybody has, and with good reason. It's challenging, crowds are amazing, and we've got great scenery everywhere.
Lake Placid is the place to be, two-time Olympic village. Overall, it's just, in my mind, a perfect race destination.
It's very emotional at the start, and tears are okay. It's okay to have a few tears.
You know, you find yourself a good group of people to swim with, keep that pace, and swim a straight line.
Every athlete comes out of the water at the end of the first lap, and Mike Riley's there announcing names, and, you know, how much better does it get? Well, everybody knows the Lake Placid bike course is challenging. It starts off relatively mellow. There's a little bit of a climb from the ski jumps. Once everybody gets rolling out of town,
you know you've got a small climb ahead of you, and then a 7-mile descent that you can refuel and rehydrate and right back down into Keene. The fast descent down into Keene is phenomenal, you know, 45, 55 miles an hour.
Take it easy on the first lap. It's a long, long way. It's a long day out there. And save some energy for the second lap of the bike and get out and run. You know, it's a little tricky to come right out of the transition and drop downhill relatively steeply down what we call Mill Hill. Once they get rolling out toward the horseshoe grounds, things flatten out. Everybody finds their rhythm, and then from there it's generally rolling. I think people come to this race not just to do the race, but to bring their families and friends, get out, hike, paddle, enjoy what the Adirondacks have to offer and these great communities that support our race.
This has to be one of the most beautiful courses in all of Ironmans around the world. I absolutely love this area. Okay, Mirror Lake is the site of the swim course this weekend, 2-lap swim, and the water temperature's at the moment hovering around that 77-degree mark, McKeely. Now, if the water temperature is 76.1 and below, athletes can wear wetsuits.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting part of the course because it is a little bit of a heat wave out there. The lake is actually quite warmer than what we usually see this time of the year. It's sitting at 77 degrees, which means it looks like it's going to be a non-wetsuit swim, which also means athletes have to think about hydrating after they get out of the water. And as you said, this is a 2-lap swim. They get out on the beach, they run around the back of the pontoon, and they do it all over again.
So as you can see on screen right now, Mirror Lake, the athletes will get out of the water and then come on down into the transition area. You see the rink there right in the middle of screen. That's where they will transition before getting out onto the bike course. So let's talk about the bike course right now. 2 laps, and it is 112 miles, 56 miles per lap. And let's go through the course right now.
Yeah, the interesting part about this bike course is the fact that when you get out of the transition, you actually hit a few hills, hit the little flat section plus the showgrounds, and then you actually start the descent. And this descent is actually a little technical because of the high speeds that you can get, but it actually gives you a chance to hydrate after the swim, maybe get a little nutrition in, maybe stretch your back, which is going to be really, really important when we hit lap number 2. We talked about what the maximum gradient was going to be. It's around 12.5% at about 10.5 miles.
Yes, exactly. So there we go, North Elbow, we go down to Keene. You said that 15% grade right at that 10.5 mile mark. And then once they get past the town of Keene, we will move the bike course right now over to the town of Jay. And we can see there they got that 5 miles out and back from the town of Jay before they move back into the town of Jay up 9 North. After they go up 9 North, they will head right up to Wilmington. And after they get to Wilmington, they're going to make that left-hand turn. And there you see Mama and Papa Bear on the left side of screen.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the athletes talked about the impact that Mama Bear, Papa Bear and Baby Bear has on this race. You know, you've just come off a flatter part of the course and then all of a sudden you're faced with some significant hills. Of course, Mama Bear's a little more aggressive than Papa Bear, and Baby Bear gets a little more mild. So it definitely, by the time these athletes hit number 2 on this course, on lap number 2, your legs are really going to be fatiguing, and you have to make sure you're a little conservative, and that's why everyone talks about taking a little bit easier on the first half of the course.
Exactly. Right where the arrow is right now is Whiteface Mountain, used in the 1980 Olympics for the downhill skiing events. Over Mama and Papa Bear, right there on screen, staying on the 86 all the way into the special needs area there. Now, once they get to the special needs area, the athletes will then pick up what they need to get halfway through the bike ride, and they'll make a couple of, quick little squiggly turns through the township there. You can see special needs right there, and then these 2 little corners right over here. The left-hand turn onto Main Street, and then the right-hand turn just around the right-hand side of the 1980 Ice Arena.
Yeah, and this is what we call the hot corner, and the reason why we call it hot corner because it's slightly off camber, which means it's actually quite difficult to corner. You definitely have to keep your head up. You have to brake quite hard because of the way the turn is. And, at this point of the race, the adrenaline's going, especially coming into the second part of the lap when you're about to transition. It's really important to stay focused because the thing that most people are thinking about right now is just getting off their bike.
Yes, exactly. And once they do get off the bikes, they're going to transition onto the run course right now. So let's switch over, take a look at our run course on the on screen right now. This is going to be highlighted in blue, so check it out. We've got the run hot corner on there as well. We're going to go through the whole course right now. So McKeely, after they run out of transition area, take a right on Main Street and head downhill.
Yeah, after they get the crowd support, they're actually going to be starting to run downhill very, very quickly. And the impact that this has on the athletes is the fact that, you have all your blood in your quads, and then all of a sudden, you have to get your running legs back. And typically on an Ironman course, it would be maybe an uphill or a flatter section straight out of the transition. So this is going to have an impact at the start of the race, and it's also going to have an impact when they go around for lap number 2 because your quads do start screaming the more fatigue that you have in them.
Yes, exactly. So there we go. We've got this little run course right now. So let's show you the elevations right now. Let's go through this. They start downhill. They go all the way down onto the 910M. They take a left-hand turn on the River Road. They go all the way out the River Road there. This section of the course, McKeely, is rather flat, but there's quite a few little twisty turns.
Yeah, the difficult part of this part of the course is the fact that, you are on a flatter section, you've just come off a downhill section, you've gone through a flat section, and then all of a sudden you're faced with actually one of the steepest part of the courses at around 9 miles, and it's actually about a 15% grade. So that's definitely a shocker on your legs when you've been running flat. Your heart rate will skyrocket, and you will definitely notice it. And the thing about this course, when we look at the records, the run records over the last couple of years, it looks like it's a fast course, but it's definitely not. It's very, very challenging.
Exactly, and right here on screen at the moment we've got the steepest part of the course, and you can look at it around about here is about 14.9%, and in the shaded area that is the steepest part of the course, up to 15.5% on Cascade Road. And then they make their way back into town, and as we get back into town there, they'll get up there, same special needs area, onto Main Street, Mirror Club Drive, and then after they go up, Mirror Lake, Club Drive, they make that right-hand turn and past the special needs area in the on that Club Drive as well. So 2 times out there.
Yeah, Club Drive is a little mentally nasty because you have to go out, you get the crowd support, then all of a sudden you have to leave them on this flat course right when you think that you're going to start lap number 2 and right when you think you're going to finish. It's like a little teaser. You're at the finish line, but then they make you go out and run an out and back section to get back to the finish. So mentally it's tough.
Yeah, so after they do the U-turn out there on Mirror Lake Club Drive, they do a U-turn, come all the way back onto the run hot corner right now. They'll see the Ford vehicle, they run around the Ford vehicle, go out for their second loop. Now, as you notice on our run mapper at the moment, they after the 2 laps, they do a right-hand turn and come into the oval, and that's where they will finish the 2011 Ford Ironman Lake Placid.
And what makes that so special as well is the fact that, this is an Olympic arena. This is where Eric Heiden won all those medals, and it is very inspirational to be finishing on this rink.
Yes, exactly, and 5 gold medals, that'd make me go a little faster as well. So that is the course here at the 2011 Ford Ironman Lake Placid. Kona points ranking, getting very much down to the crux of things at the moment. This is the last couple of races. We've got Frankfurt happening at the same time tomorrow, but July 31st is the cutoff, the first deadline. Our first 25 women and first 40 men will be announced as automatic qualifiers for the Ford Ironman World Championship coming up in October as well. So let's talk. A few of the athletes right now are sitting right on the bubble. We're talking about our men at the moment. TJ Tollickson, he's sitting in 43rd, and Ben Hoffman a little bit safer at 35th position. So right now, TJ Tollickson's got his work cut out.
Yeah, and what's interesting about these 2 athletes is TJ, really wanted to go after the points. That was his big mission. He planned his season because he wanted to make sure he got his Kona points. So he's planned it down to this race. And then you got someone like Ben Hoffman who said, you know what, I'm going to stick with the races that I want to do, and if I do well in those races, I'm going to get the points that I need to get to the Ironman World Championships.
Well, if you're as good as Ben Hoffman is at 27 years old, you can do whatever you like as well. So let's talk about our women, because we've got a very interesting story on this side of things. So we've got Heather Wurtel. She's sitting in 22nd position right now. So I would almost think that she's safe, but it depends what happens in Frankfurt, depends what happens here, and then the other one we need to talk about, she is on the cut line. Tien Dekkers from Belgium. She's right at that 25th position right now.
Yeah, it definitely, she's here for no other reason than to get to some points, because if her goal is to race Kona, she needs to get a few places above that, because, you really mentally want to make sure that you have your place secured, and the earlier that you can do it, the more that you can focus on it. So her deadline of July 31st is very important. And then, when the 31st of August deadline comes around, that's when we're going to find out the next 5 women and the next 5-10 who are going to qualify.
We're not going to say lucky losers or anything, but, they're going to be lucky to get into that World Championship. That's correct, for sure. All right, so tomorrow morning we've got just under 40 professional athletes are going to be starting this race at 6:50 in the morning. And also, over 2,000 points are available. Kona points ranking, they're very, very hard points to come by. There's 2,000 of those for our professional athletes tomorrow, and they're vying for $75,000 of prize money as well, and 65 slots for the age groupers to qualify for this year's 2011 Ford Ironman World Championship. So that's how it stands in that respect. All right, so we're going to go over to our picks right now. So women, who looks good to you?
You can't go past someone like Heather Wurtel. She dominated St. George Ironman earlier in the year. Tyler Stewart had a little sabbatical from triathlon last year and concentrated on cycling.
And boy, did she do good.
Yeah, she did. And we know that she is definitely a strong biker and a strong runner. This course will suit her because of the underwater cable that we're going to have in the swim. And then, you know, someone like Tyne Deckers, who really needs some good points to get into the World Championships. So I think it's going to be a good, tight race.
Yeah, it sure will be. And the men in this race as well, we've got, you know, Ben Hoffman obviously is our defending champion here at Lake Placid, and he loves this race. Done it before, so he's got the experience of it. He's a young guy, 27 years old. Also, TJ Tollickson. Look out for TJ, because he's been training very, very well. He's switched bikes. His position's better. He's, you know, had a little bit of an injury as well, but he's coming into this race with a lot of experience. Jason Shortest, Luke Bell, and Eduardo Sturla. So we've got a top-ranked men's field.
Yeah, the men's field is going to be really, really exciting. I know Luke Bell has been struggling a little bit with a little bit of a cold and a little bit of an injury. So he showed, though, in Texas that he is back to that form that everyone predicted that he had quite a few years ago.
And he's one tough nut. I'll tell you what, he's had a good year. He won the Roto Ironman 70.3 Honu as well. So we're going to go over to another tough nut. His name's Matt Lieto. He's our Ironman insider. So let's go over to Studio B. Take it away, Matt.
Thanks for that, guys. In case you're curious, Greg, my picks are going to be Heather Wertel and Ben Hoffman. I do think Ben Hoffman's got his work cut out for him with Luke Bell and TJ Tollickson, some of the best athletes in our sport, to have not won an Ironman yet. They've both been second place a bunch. Luke was second place to Simon Lessing here years ago on a great day, but has just picked the wrong races and never won. So those guys are motivated to get their first win here at Ironman Lake Placid. Since we had the opportunity to sit down with these pros, I thought I'd ask them their perspective on the course. I've been out the last couple days riding the course. I raced here a few years ago, and it is easily the most scenic and breathtaking Ironman course that I've ever done. So a treat for all the age groupers that are coming out here, but let's listen to the pros' perspective on the race course.
The swim course here in Placid is pretty special in that there's this cable that you can follow, so I imagine the swim times are fast just because you aren't sighting and you know there's no real chance of getting confused directionally. The water is pretty warm, so I don't know, like I'm hoping it will be non-wetsuit because I felt really comfortable swimming without a wetsuit in the lake, and I feel like it could be kind of overheating swimming hard in a wetsuit, but it seems to be right on the cusp. So I think the temperature is sort of, could be a bit more of an element.
You have a little climb out of town, and then you've got that long, fast descent. It's, you know, it's a sweeping descent. It's nothing technical, but you're definitely going to hit some very high speeds going down there, some rough edges. So I think you've got to be a little bit cautious. And then once you make that left-hand turn, it's undulating, it's rolly, and if there's a little bit of wind, then you're going to have probably a tailwind out, headwind back, and I think this is where you need to conserve a little bit. And obviously heading back up towards town, you've got the three-stepper climb. What is it? Mama bear, Papa bear, baby bear, and it goes for 10 miles. And 10 miles is a long time to be munching out a big gear. First lap is definitely conserve, make sure your nutrition's on track, and conserve, because that second lap, and especially that last 10-mile climb, is I think where things will alter people's races.
This is definitely a challenging marathon. I mean, I think you see somebody split like Simon Lessing, who ran a 2:46 here when he set the course record, and you think, well, it must be a quick marathon course, or can be one, but the truth is I think it's pretty challenging. I mean, you have several rollers even on River Road, and then obviously some bigger climbs right in town proper, and then on your way out to River Road. So yeah, it makes for a hard run, and you really have to be able to keep your heart rate under control on some of those climbs, especially on the second lap.
Yeah, there's a great perspective on our course from three of our top athletes. Also, considering we had the time to sit down with the best athletes in the sport, I thought I'd ask them all what their one have-to-have tip is for age group athletes or first-time Ironman participants. And we sat down with a few of them, and here's the tips they have for age groupers coming out here tomorrow.
My pro tip would be, if you're new to the Ironman distance and are a bit nervous about the swim, you don't need to feel compelled to get right in the mix, and it's totally fine to stick to an edge and wait for a little bit for some of the chaos to clear, and then just really do your own thing.
So many people go out there and there's so much energy, and it's great energy, but it makes everybody go a little bit outside of their zone sometimes, and then they end up feeling that later on in the race. So if there's one thing I could tell somebody, it's stay within yourself, race your own race, and be your own competitor. Don't worry about other people out there passing you, not you're passing them. Do what you know you can do and be comfortable with where you're at.
The biggest mistake people make is going too hard, especially on the bike early. It's a long day out there, and I know you get on your bike, you feel great because you're tapered and you're rested and you're thinking this is awesome, and people are flying by on their bike and you're passing people and people are passing you and you want to get caught up in the race. And in reality, you got to remember it's a long day, and it doesn't matter how fast you're going at mile 10 in the bike. It matters, how fast you can get across the finish line.
My tip is, once you take your wetsuit off, you let the swim go. And then once you've done your bike, you let it go. So you can't change what's happened before. You can only focus on what you've got ahead.
Well, I hope you guys are paying attention. Those are some great tips from our best athletes in the sport. I'd have to second what Jason had to say. Nothing ever goes right in an Ironman, especially your first one. So if something bad happens, let it go. If you have a bad swim, bad bike, let it go. If you drop your nutrition, try to deal with it in the present, but let the bad things pass and look to what you have ahead. So those are the tips from our pros. Back to you guys in Studio A.
Well, thank goodness we had the pros to talk about that, because I don't think Matt really knows what he's talking about, do you?
I don't know. I think he has some good advice.
Yeah, he does. He's awesome. We love him. All right, so Lake Placid, it's absolutely gorgeous around here. The community gets behind their race, and, it's always good to be here.
Yeah, we talked about how awesome the Olympic spirit is here. It's followed through for years and years. The people and the community here, this is why Lake Placid is what it's all about. It's the volunteers, it's the community, and it is beautiful here. So let's take a little look to see what Lake Placid is really like.
My name's Brian Delaney. I live in Lake Placid since 1980, the Olympic year. As soon as I drove into town, there was a beautiful rainbow up over Lake Placid, and I said, this is the place for me. Literally 1 minute from my house, I can be trail running, mountain biking, cross-country skiing out my backyard, fishing, boating, canoeing, kayaking. It's all right here.
That's what Lake Placid's all about. It's a commitment to sports. From the 1932 games to the 1980 games to so many world-class athletic competitions today. Lake Placid is the greatest sports town in America and probably the greatest sports town in the world. The village of Lake Placid is only about 3,000 people, which is very interesting because this year we have around 3,950 volunteers alone. And when you add that to the number of athletes, this town is going to swell to about 30,000 people this weekend.
If you're in the city, you can take a step and think about Lake Placid in your mind and go, I have a breath of fresh air. There is a God. I can release all this pressure from the city and all that stress.
It's very spiritual, very magical. And I can't think of a better place to celebrate the competitive spirit of an Ironman than here in the two-time Olympic Village.
So I got the stat of the day, and that is there's 3,950 volunteers, and the population of Lake Placid, 3,000. So that's a great community right there. All right, well, today's Ramp Up Show has been brought to you by Ford Drive One. It is also the official vehicle of Ironman. Also, don't forget to join us tomorrow, not only here on IronmanLIVE and Ironman.com, but also at www.facebook.com/IronmanTry and at Twitter at IronmanTry. That's where you'll find us. McKeely, Matt, and myself will be tweeting during the day and doing what we do and trying to talk and let you know whatever else is going on. All right, so don't forget, tomorrow morning we're going to come on live at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's where you'll find McKeely and I.
Up bright and early.
Yeah, up bright and early. Of course, we're always up bright and early. So we, for Matt Lieto, for McKeely Jones and myself, Greg Welch, saying so long for now. We'll see you tomorrow.